All right, everybody, it is Friday. Whew, made it through another week in this crazy year of 2020, which I've got to tell you, 2020, I am not happy with you so far. 2019, you kicked ass and were amazing. 2020, you are upsetting, and you need a timeout, and no soup for you. It's been not my favorite year so far. I think even Producer Mark would agree. Producer Mark, 2020, not up to par.
Well, I mean, I got married last year, so I kind of have to like 2019 better.
There we go. Producer Mark doesn't want to be sleeping on the couch this weekend. He's a smart man.
Yes.
So 2019, way better. I got to go to Producer Mark's wedding in 2019. So there we go. Another check mark in the 2019 is better box. But I think we're going to go. I'm with Trump on this one. We're going to go into the fourth quarter very strong. That's what I think is going to happen. And with that, man, can you tell us a little bit? You were able to hear we had a lot of voicemails coming in this week.
Yes, people seem to like the voicemails. I was able to get a few that are even worthy of being on the air.
Let's do it, Producer Mark. Kick us off with our audio roll call.
Hi, Buck. It's Roy from Texas. Shields, hi, man. Hey, I agree with you on not bending the knee. I totally agree with that. I'm also with you on the mask foolishness. I stopped playing that game a long time ago. I'm not going to be like the rest of these sheeple. Hang in there, Buck. Love your show.
Roy, thank you so much, my friend. I look, don't bend the knee because there's a couple of ways to look at this. I mean, one of them is that you get no benefit from bending the knee because they're not going to forgive you, right? This is a bit like being pulled aside by the Soviet secret police, and they're telling you to sign a confession. You get no benefit from signing the confession. So why? They're going to send you they're going to give you that 10-year sentence in Siberia anyway. Doesn't matter. So why even worry about it, right? I mean, why do what they want you to do? There's no benefit to apologizing. Once you bend the knee, they just take your head. That's the next move. So you might as well go down fighting and keep your dignity and keep your strength. And look, it's going to be a continuous thing. I mean, they're not going to go away for a while with these demands, and the language is changing, and bands are changing their names. Band-Aid, I saw, has now had a series of Band-Aid lines released that are more color inclusive, is what they're doing now, which, I don't care. You can make my Band-Aid bright blue for all I care. I don't think this really, that probably looks like pro-police or something, right? Oh, no. Remember there was a hashtag for a while, Blue Lives Matter. You'll note that people aren't using it. I think that they're concerned that if they were to put that out there, even people in the media, they might find themselves getting canceled. They might find that that's now saying if all lives matter can get you canceled, as we know it can, Blue Lives Matter can certainly get you canceled. So just be aware of that. That is a change in the discourse. And the left is ascendant right now with all this stuff. There are very few people willing to stand up against the mob and speak out against this. All right, Producer Mark, fire away. We got another voicemail roll call.
Hey, Buck and Mark. It's John from Dover, Delaware. And I just wanted to call in and tell you guys I love the show. And I also wanted to mention I've been a long-time listener, and Mark is a great asset that has been added to the show since I've been listening. I just wanted to mention also that you guys were talking about Patrick Ewing last night in basketball, and it just brought me back to those sneakers. If you guys remember them, they were the 33 Patrick Ewing shoes. Everybody had a pair. Anyhow, man, love the show. You guys are doing a great job. Shield high.
Well, thank you so much for calling in. Hey, we got a Delaware listener. Hi, I'm in Delaware. But that's great, though. No, we really appreciate it, man. And there was something very special. You got to remember back in the 90s, which is when I did watch and went to a lot of Knicks games. I mean, there were, I think, 1 or 2 years where my dad split. Producer Mark is going to fall over in his chair. My dad split season tickets with a buddy of his. And, my older brother went to, I don't know, probably a dozen home games. I went to, I'd say, maybe 3 or 4. But we used to go. I mean, we were Knicks fans back in the Patrick Ewing era. We would go to these games and eat the cold in the middle hot dogs and stand in the line during the the breaks between quarters of like 1,000 people trying to get the soggiest cheese-covered French fries you could ever find. Producer Mark, what is your stadium food? Like, what is the dream team of stadium cuisine? See what I did there? For you.
See, stadium cuisine has gotten so much better over the years. Like, especially like at the Mets home. I'm a Mets fan, Citi Field. They have like gourmet food. Like, I'll get a steak sandwich. I'll get a nice turkey and fresh mozzarella sandwich. And they have so many different, like, they have barbecue. They have this specialty fry place. So there's a million things that you get at a baseball game now. Or any game.
But of the classics.
Of the classics.
If you can only get hot dog, pretzel, popcorn, cotton candy.
You know what?
In the classics.
At a baseball game, a sausage and pepper sandwich. Because you always smell it throughout the park, and you want it.
That's fair. I did back in the day when I didn't know that I couldn't eat gluten, at least, or I was not yet diagnosed as a celiac. I loved a hot dog and those buns. Hot dog is great.
I mean, you can't go wrong in the hot dog either. I mean,
yeah. I mean, now I'd probably get the hot dog and just eat the dog and not the bun. Not you, Tallulah. You're my princess. But yeah, I think that would be a way to go. So, okay. And Patrick Ewing. Did you ever have the Patrick Ewing? Do you know what he's talking about, the shoes? I know about Air Jordans, certainly. They became a cultural phenomenon.
I think they were a little more
Ewing
popular.
Had his own shoes, too.
Yeah, they were a little more popular in New York than they were elsewhere. You know, the Air Jordans kind of ruled all and still do.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. We got another one? Let's do another one.
Hey, Buck and producer Mark. This is Chris from Spokane, Washington. I just want to let you know that you're not alone out there. Know that there are tons of us out there that are supporting you and appreciate what you're doing. You're an awesome voice that's broadcast across the country. I myself am a constitutionalist, and I value our rights over most anything else besides my family and my God. Keep it up. Don't give up. Be a voice of reason in this world. Thank you.
Chris from Spokane, Washington. Tremendous eloquence and a very appreciated high five for Mark and me here on the show. So thank you so much for that. And we certainly appreciate our Washington, our Spokane affiliate putting us on the air there so people can hear us. And yeah, we're going to continue to do what we do, even though these days, I mean, it feels lonely in conservative media because even if you're part of the very few places, and look, I am thankful that I am able to, that conservative talk radio still is influential enough and draws enough audience, is powerful enough that you're allowed some free thought and some free expression. Even at Fox, which is a media, super platform, you get the sense that people are already getting a little worried about, what they can say, what they can get away with. I had a friend, I won't even get into it now, but you all know who I'm talking about, who separated from Fox, and I think it was just the mob was demanding in the early days someone bend the knee, and they made someone else bend the knee there, and I did not appreciate it at all. I did not think that was fair. I did not think that it was just, but corporate mentality now is just to protect profits and not to be free speech platforms. And that has ramifications all across the media. It really does. And it's a tough time to be in the truth business. It's an easy time to be in the whose streets are streets, Occupy Wall Street business. It's easy to be a leftist agitator and to go along with this and to try and do the most, over-the-top version of the mourning that some of these news anchors have been going through over George Floyd, and you had Frey, the mayor in Minneapolis, crying profusely. Frey was acting like he just lost his mom or dad. That's what he was doing. And if he had lost his mom or dad, I would totally understand it, and there's nothing about it that other than sympathy that I would have. He didn't even know this guy. And you're allowed to say that something is unjust and something is wrong without going into these performative theatrics about it. But this is where we are now. People recognize that there is advantage in this movement at this moment, and they're trying to take advantage of it. Producer Mark, what else we got?
Hi, this is Christy from Austin, Texas. I'm listening to you on KLBJ. We would love to have you in Austin. We get plenty of imports from parts of the country, and they are going to vote liberal. We need more voices like you here. You're in the top tier of talk radio show hosts. I mean, you're right up there. So good, so enjoyable. Please come to Austin.
Well, thank you so much, Christy from KLBJ Austin. And we really appreciate that affiliation. And to be on such a great heritage radio station in Texas that was a real milestone for us on the show. And they've stuck with us, and we've had a really strong audience there. So that means a lot. And see, Producer Mark, I think Austin's back in play, my friend, for the Mobile Freedom Medal. I'm not saying Florida doesn't still have a little bit of an edge right now, but now we got people that are telling us Austin would be good for us.
Yes, there was exactly one person who said that.
Well, that's one more than we had yesterday.
You're right.
I'll just say it. Austin, my older brother has spent a lot of time there. He says he loves it. He says it's got great food, great people. It's just lots of cool stuff going on. It's a really high quality of life. So now, granted, our friend John Cardillo or our friend Dan Bongino, they would all be like, Florida's got that too, buddy. And, so look, Florida or Texas, who knows how it's going to be. It's a battle for the ages. But at least we got a voice in for Austin, Texas, telling us that we would be welcome down there. Thank you so much, Christy. Really appreciate you calling it. It's a very kind, and God bless. Keep listening to the show, please. Do we have another one, Mark, or is that it for our voicemails?
We have plenty, yeah.
All right, hit it. Let's go.
Hey, Producer Mark and Buck. This is Star from California, and I just need to know, how can I discuss white privilege with somebody in their 20s who I blew up yesterday at trying to get into a discussion about it, and I need to be able to not get so crazy and just kind of give them the facts. So I would appreciate it. Thanks. Love the show. Love your hair, Buck. Bye.
Well, thank you, Star. I love that you say love the hair, which now at this point, I'm trying to, I was able to tame it by getting the Snow Princess to cut it for a little while, but now it's reached that point where I probably need to bring in the professionals. It's getting a little out of hand. But I will say on the point about how to discuss white privilege, there's no easy way, and I would say that you start from the premise, start from basic moral truths, start from that you only have responsibility and you only have culpability for that which you had the ability to affect, for what you do, for your decision making. Your existence is not we're not going to allow for this to turn into a new form of original sin, being born white. So to apologize for something that's out of your control is inherently someone forcing upon you something that is not demanded by morality and clear thinking. This is a political movement. And I think that white privilege, you also would have to ask, there's so many, look, it's a very broad-based discussion you could have about this, but with white privilege, you'd also want to ask why in a country where Asian American households have substantially more wealth on average than white American households do, how powerful really is white privilege? Is there Asian American privilege? If not, why not? And, the more you look at the facts and the data, the harder it is to sustain this rhetoric of systemic oppression and to assume that there's always an external enemy here. There's always an external force that is preventing, in this case, the African American community from, in the aggregate, achieving, whether it's educational parity, look at testing scores over decades. There's never allowed to be a conversation about family and the breakdown of the family, particularly in urban centers. And that's not, no. It's always there is this external force, whiteness, that is working against and holding down the aspirations of the African American community. And even if that is true in part, it cannot be the entire truth, but is the only part of the conversation that we're allowed to have. And that's why I think this narrative of white privilege is just damaging to everybody, because it's never had with open minds and with honesty as the central premise. It's about politics and about control. All right, we continue on with our... This is fun. I like this. Producer Mark, come on. I know you got to spend a lot of time listening to voice messages now, but it's nice that we have the team's voices added to the show in this way.
Yes, it's very nice. If we could hire an intern to get the messages from now on, though, that'd be great.
Would you trust an intern to sift through some of the ones that are a little too spicy?
I really wouldn't trust anyone but myself.
I think that's...
With almost anything.
I think that's a good rule to have. Yeah, I feel that way about a lot of things, too. But now I trust you, so it's like me, you, and, my parents, my siblings.
I'm going to give you a chance to add one more person to that.
Snow Princess.
Yep.
Good man. Thank you. Now I'm not sleeping on the couch this weekend. All right. Give me the voicemail. What do you got?
Hey, Buck. This is Lowell from Metro Detroit. Just have a question. Every time local and state governments want to try to impose higher taxes, the first thing they pull out of their quiver is, well, if you don't agree to this, we're going to have to cut police and fire protection. Now they're using that as now a good thing. They threaten us with it as a bad thing in order to get us to give them more money, but now they're trying to convince us it's a good thing. It makes no sense, and I'm kind of curious as to what you think this is going to look like when ballot box time comes. Shield high.
Thank you for calling in from Detroit. So your question seems to be that usually they threaten us with if you don't do what we want with municipal funding, this is the fireman first model. That's how people will refer to it. We're going to cut the fire departments and your buildings will burn down, and that's just the way it's going to be. And usually that's a very effective, if very coercive political position. Now they're saying we're going to defund police. So you're pointing out, isn't this contradictory? The answer is yes, which is why they're not going to really defund police. What they'll do is take some police funds and redistribute it to community organizers and other either social welfare or just general welfare programs throughout cities. But they're not going to defund police because they recognize that would be catastrophic. So they'll keep saying it, but it won't really happen. And maybe one or two cities will go crazy enough that they'll do it. But those one or two cities are going to become the canaries in the coal mine that die very quickly in the cage, so to speak. I mean, people are gonna see what happens in those cities and say, we don't want to do that. So no, you will not have defunding, and ultimately, the most essential city services are still something that politically will have to be funded by anybody who wants to remain in power, but might not be funded at the same level and won't be as effective. So that will, and then it'll just be a question of whether they can, from the narrative perspective, keep people from understanding who's really responsible for that.
It's time for roll call.
It is time for roll call, everybody. There we go. Facebook.com/Buck Sexton if you want to use Facebook to send us messages. TeamBuck@iHeartMedia.com if you want to do email, kick it old school, or 844-900-BUCK, 844-900-2825. There is nothing producer Mark enjoys more than staying up late at night to listen to the hundreds and hundreds of voicemails that are coming in during the week. So, right?
Yes, it's my greatest joy in life now.
Yeah, producer Mark, he doesn't want to watch a classic hockey match on the Classic Sports Network or anything. No. He wants to listen to voicemails, trust me. So send in as many as you can. He loves it. 844-900-BUCK is the number. And let's get to it with, now we already had the voicemails. Let's do some written roll call. Kelly kicks us off here. Buck, my 19-year-old granddaughter recently came to live with us and attend college. We live about an hour from Seattle. One of her friends invited her to attend the Seattle protest with her, and my granddaughter told her no. She said she wasn't comfortable being in the middle of a mob of people like that. The friend responded, "Are you racist?" I told my granddaughter I thought it was despicable for her friend to respond that way. I think it is very normal behavior for her age group. I find it very disturbing. Kelly, thank you so much for writing in. And yes, you're correct. It is unfortunately far too normal now, the response that you'll get from people if you don't want to be an activist on the street, which let's just put aside for a moment whether the cause who even knows what the cause is right now? The cause is whatever it is on any given day. The left feels like pretending it is. But let's assume for a moment that you agree with the cause. It doesn't make you a bad person if you don't want to walk on the streets in a mob of people who are very possibly going to turn violent, who are very possibly going to be a threat to the people around them, might get hit with, pepper spray or tear gas or, because if they start a riot situation with the cops, doesn't make you a bad person. Also doesn't make you a bad person to think that you just don't want to go for this march because you think it's not going to do anything and it's kind of a waste of time. So you could even believe all of the anti-racism rhetoric that's out there right now in terms of what the movement's trying to accomplish, right? You could be on board for all of the politics of this. And you would still be completely within your rights to say, but I'm not going to go march over this. There are other ways that people can take action. So your granddaughter's friend is way out of line, but unfortunately that's very common these days. People don't think for themselves. They want that mob appreciation. They want people to just do what they say because they're doing what they're told. So if you don't do what you're told by the mob as well, that inherently makes people insecure who are just listening to the dictates of the mob and going along with it. You have to remember that too. So yes, indeed. It is despicable, the behavior you're describing. I can't say it's surprising. And also, Kelly, you might be thinking, well, Buck, do you have any way I could tell my granddaughter how to convince her friend? No, her friend is gone to the loony bin already of the left. There's no way to... you can't reason with somebody. If they really think that it's racist to not march in a protest that could be violent and be a danger, you're not going to be able to reach them with reason, with facts, with logic. It's just not going to happen. Joel writes in, listen, I know this will probably keep from getting this read on air, but producer Mark is a little wrong on this one. No, it's not going to keep. Producer Mark's an honest man. Yeah. He's an honest man. Occasionally a little grumpy, but very honest.
I put it there out of principle.
That's right. And see, he puts it on air out of principle. He says, yes, it's called gravy, but nowhere near to the extent producer Mark made it sound like it was. The sauce gravy debate is one of the most contentious arguments among not only Italian Americans, but Italian Italians. There are only a couple of areas that call it gravy: New York City, New Jersey, and maybe Chicago. Everywhere else calls it sauce. But being New York City as well, New York City gets a disproportional representation in the grand scheme of things. Once you leave the downstate enclave, it ceases to be gravy. I grew up in central New York, and I'm full-blooded Italian and Sicilian and grew up with many, 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 many Italians and Sicilians. I never once heard sauce called gravy until I think I saw The Sopranos, Shields High. I cede my time to producer Mark. What say you in response to Joel calling you out here for calling it gravy?
Well, first of all, what accent were you just doing? I think you just did Governor Cuomo for that entire message, so I'm just confused. I'm thrown off by that. Besides the point, yes, I will. I mean, gravy is a common term in the Northeast. I don't know about the rest of the country, but in TV shows, in Italian restaurants, you see it called gravy. And all the Italians I know call it gravy.
I'm gonna get a final ruling from the judges here. Snow Princess, do we call it? Is it called gravy? Is this a thing? Snow Princess says roll call person is correct on this one. So I'm just putting that out there.
I think Snow Princess and I are having our first disagreement.
Producer Mark is sad that you're having your first disagreement with him about things. So there you have it. I'm just going to say there you have it. Oh, Snow Princess is actually Italian. This is something that has not come up before.
Oh, that's fair.
So
all right.
She's pulling the Italian card because she is Italian. So there's that.
I'll give the matzo ball opinion. She can give the gravy opinion, I guess.
Producer Mark he says he's our matzo ball expert, and you get to be the gravy / pasta expert. So, yep. Yeah, she says stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. All right. We've come to a consensus here. And producer Nick is weighing it too. But producer Mark, we give you producer Nick says it's only enclaves in the Northeast. It's called gravy. I will say this, producer Mark, you're an honorable man for putting Joel's roll call in the mix here, though.
Oh, when you bait me, he knew how to get on. If you're going to call me out, of course.
That's right. It's great reverse psychology. Producer Mark would never put this on the show, and sure enough, heard across the country, coast to coast. Dave Next up here, Yo Buck. I really look forward to your show daily. Wanted to touch base a month or so ago when you sounded uncharacteristically melancholy about the shutdown and ensuing isolation. Now that the Fauci hoax has been revealed, I have seen your wonderful cynicism back, and your wry sense of humor is at its zenith. Your Cuomo impersonation sends me into paroxysms of laughter every time you do it. Here in the state of communist California, we hardly would know there's a pandemic. If it were not for all the obedient poodles wearing masks and the myriad social distancing signs, and the peaceful riots here confirm there's no crisis here. Our phalanx is strong. Our shields are high. All right, Dave. Thank you so much. Producer Cuomo stepped in here to read. I'm sorry. Governor Cuomo, producer Mark. Governor Cuomo stepped in to read that one for you. And yeah, look, I was in a really bad scene here. I mean, I was feeling like I wasn't going to get to see my family or my close friends for months and months. Because you got to remember, we were being told, think of all the things that happen here. The Javits Center I can walk to from my apartment in probably 10 or 15 minutes was set up as a multi-thousand person hospital for COVID patients. And they didn't even have to use it. I saw in real time as a hospital ship floated past my window because we were going to be so overwhelmed with COVID patients that at first they wanted them to be non-COVID patients on the hospital ship, and then they said they needed to be COVID patients. We were told that this place was going to end up being completely overrun, and we were going to have far more hospitalizations. I mean, at one point they were claiming that we're going to have 120,000 hospitalizations at the peak. Think about that. At one time. It ended up being, I think, 15,000 or 20,000 or so. I mean, it was a fraction. Maybe it was 30,000 at the height, a fraction of what was said to be the peak. So, yeah, man, things were scarier. This was the worst place for COVID by far. New York City has had more COVID deaths than all but 5 countries. And New York's not even the biggest state. So, yeah, we got hit by this very, very hard. And it was tough, man. We were like, people were thinking the city was going to be done forever and that there was never going to be an economic comeback. And now, fortunately, the experts were wrong, and the politicization of this has become more apparent. But yeah, Dave, it was rough, but the Buckster is back for sure, and I'm glad you see that. And we are rocking here in the Freedom Hut. Mike, next up here. Mike, hey, Buck, there's a story floating around the internet about how Trump wants to unveil police reform policies that he would sign into law. Should Trump do that, would that be a wise political move? I guess it depends what happens, but my guess is that wouldn't be enough no matter what it is. Trump should not pander to that crowd who will never vote for him anyway. Mike, your assessment here. Yes, I've also seen that same news story. Your assessment here is correct about how Trump will never. Remember, this White House did the First Step Act. They already took action without there being this huge, upsurge in interest around criminal justice and race relations and all the rest of it. They already did the First Step Act, which was more on a legislative basis, more than was ever achieved during the Obama years. Has the president received any real political benefit for this? I mean, I think he would have done it anyway because he believed it was the right thing to do. But there hasn't been any increase in good faith as a result of the First Step Act. There hasn't been any sense that this was, that the president has benefited from this politically. That's just not the case. So, yeah, you're asking me if Senate Republicans push some bill forward and obviously the Democrats in the House sign on to it too, would Trump be right to sign it? I would say, sure, but, fine, but it's not really going to do anything. Maybe it'll make some minor changes to police procedure that maybe are good, but it's not going to change the problem. I mean, it's going to be it's very similar to it's not similar to the gun control argument in that I think that a lot of the gun control rules that are proposed would not do anything to actually prevent bad people from using guns in the commission of crimes. But a lot of the gun control argument turns into what are relatively minor changes to the Second Amendment at a federal level, but we understand that the incrementalism of the left is meant to continuously erode Second Amendment rights, and that's why there's always this huge pushback even over the more minor issues. This is this will be minor changes from a legislative perspective. Democrats will claim victory on it. It'll energize the Democrat base, and Trump will get no political upside from it. The only thing you can say is it takes away a talking point of continued criticism against Trump. I don't think that's really, I don't think it's going to be that valuable. But I do think that Trump will sign it. And I think that this White House has always had an interest, as evidenced by the First Step Act, an interest in trying to take action that is, just in their view, going to be pushing for a more just law enforcement, and particularly on the incarceration side of things, not unduly penalizing and punishing people. So, yes, I think your analysis on this is correct, and I don't think that Trump will get any real benefit, but I do think that he will sign changes to police procedure from the federal level if they come to his desk. I do think he will. All right. Got to close out the show strong here with the best roll call ever. And that's what we're always doing. The best roll call we could ever find. Just want to remind everybody, go to bucksexton.com. We post stories there throughout the day. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're having some trouble with YouTube pulling stuff on us, but we'll figure it out. We'll find a way around the lib censors that run that platform. Because we're not doing anything wrong. I don't know. They just... Conservatism is wrong. But if liberalism is right, I don't want to be right, or I don't know. You know what I'm saying. So please do go to bucksexton.com, and also make sure, if you're not already, follow me on Instagram, Buck Sexton. There you go. Let's see. Mark, not to be confused with Producer Mark. Producer Mark, come on, man. Are you seriously thinking about letting Buck move to Delray Beach? You have a hard enough time getting him behind the microphone on time living in shutdown NYC in a 700-square-foot apartment. Buck will, by the way, it's more like 650. Buck will never show up if he's got access to a beach 10 months a year. That is, unless, of course, you all post up and do the show right from the beach. In all seriousness, get out of NYC as soon as you can. Mark, your producer Mark, your friend Mark, is making some sense here.
I mean, but I feel like once we're out of lockdown and we actually have to go back to a studio, no matter what, I'm never going to get you to studio on time. Doesn't matter where we are. That may be true.
So at least once we're done starting the show late, then we'll still be near a beach. I think that's your...
Exactly.
That would be your position.
See, if we're near a beach, what I can say is, Buck, the quicker that you get done with the show and the quicker you get here, the quicker you can get on the beach.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yes. Delray Beach. Might be an interesting place to go check out. Chris writes, why does it seem like all the people calling for defunding the police are the same ones that need safe spaces from words in college, Shields High? Chris, because there is a huge crossover. This is the woke left. That is what the woke left believes, that words they don't like equals violence, that censorship is desirable, is necessary, is moral, of ideas that bother them. This comes right from college campuses. Many of us have been warning about this for a long time. It's gone from the college campuses, and now it is in society to a widespread enough degree, and the people are old enough. They're in their, there's this generation of like 25 to 35-year-old woke, woke fundamentalists, if you will. And they can exercise enough authority in institutions that are large and powerful that we're now all seeing the results of this, where if you're not woke enough, you can lose your job and bad things happen. Angela, hey, Buck, I discovered your podcast about 6 months ago, and now every day at work, I go into my lab, close the door, put my headphones on, and consume all of the insightful information and views you share. My question is, do you think that the local Democrat leaders in all these cities that have been severely looted and damaged have pushed a lot more people to vote for Republicans after seeing the Dems have no interest in protecting them or their businesses? Shields High. Well, Angela, it's great to be able to keep you company in the lab, so thank you so much for being a part of Team Buck. We are humbled and we are honored by it. I do not think that this will come back to hurt Democrats. Joe Biden was well advised enough to not say he would defund the police. And they will memory hold this whole thing, and they'll pretend that it never... They'll gaslight us in the fall and be like, what? We never said defund the police. And all they have to do is convince 1 or 2% of the population about this. Robert writes, love the show. OSS member, you and Producer Mark do an awesome job. I love his interjections. He needs to get a Twitter handle. Keep up the awesome work. Producer Mark, do you have a Twitter handle?
I do. It's at Producer Mark NYC.
At Producer Mark NYC, everybody. There you go. Have a great weekend, my friends. Looking forward to chatting with you on Monday. Please spread the word about the show. Pass the buck. Tell somebody in your life to download on Spotify, the iHeart app, or Apple Podcasts, The Buck Sexton Show. I'll talk to you Monday. Shields high.